Hello viewers, in Gran Turismo 7's most recent update we were treated to quite a lot of additions. VR, the Sophie AI, Grand Valley making a return, but the most important aspect was this, Citroën DS Palace, this marvel of engineering, just so happened to be the very first round of the new Nations Cup season around the Maggiore circuit, and it promised to be one of the most intriguingly slow races of all time, and I was very much looking forward to getting behind the wheel of such an incredible machine. I first had to go to the legendary car dealership to get my hands on such an esteemed piece of beauty and then whip a horrible livery on it. Now let's head into qualifying for the very first race and see exactly how slow this machine is. With only 103 horsepower, you can probably expect that it wouldn't be too quick at all, and that exactly turned out to be the case. Now this was a really interesting circuit. It's a new circuit in the game, at least it's not been previous Gran Turismos, and it's the shortest version of the Maggiore circuit, this shortest layout, and it made for quite an intriguing race as mentioned earlier. Now heading down the back straight, let's take a look at the monumental top speed of this incredible car, hitting 100 miles per hour as we hit the brakes here into the bottom hairpin. And with that kind of speed, it's almost just too fast, I would say. You could argue that's actually borderline illegal. But anyway, I'm not going to bore you with all of qualifying. I finished in 10th, and there was actually the return of Wi-Fi password. Someone I have not seen in a long time. It's good to see that they are alive and well. But as we line up on the grid in anticipation of this first race, let's see how this one goes. 5 lights are out, and away we go. 0 to 60, I'm not actually sure, but it's in the region of about a month. As we head towards the first couple of corners here. Now this is quite an interesting beginning to the lap. You have a long left-right chicane which goes into the first big braking zone on the circuit, into this hairpin here. And I must say it wasn't the cleanest of starts from me, just bumping the Frenchman into, well, the wider areas of the circuit, should we say. Penalty for the Portuguese driver up in front, as we then head into this right-hander which leads out onto the back straight, the longest straight on the track. And I almost forget to turn in. The Swiss driver turns in on the inside of me. It's all kicking off here. On the back straight, I'm in P10. But as we head into the bottom hairpin, I'm really just in the wrong position on the outside. 2 cars on my right hand side. There's 4 abreast temporarily. It really isn't all that pretty. And I've moved all the way down into 14th with only 1 car behind. Even this pink car with a Pokemon on it has gone past me. Now you're going to have to confirm to me if that actually is a Pokemon or not. I'm not actually entirely sure. But what I do know is that I perform a beautiful, a textbook old switcheroo on the Swiss driver before running over this massive sausage and reclaiming 13th. Now coming down into the bottom hairpin once again. Very difficult corner to get right, as you can see by the fact that I drive completely wide and move all the way down into a very sad 15th out of 15. So from there, the only way was up, and so our quest began to move back up the order. Another switcheroo there performed on Flash Dagger, moving us up into 14th. Then there's a car dying on the left-hand side. That was 13th. This poor Frenchman with a poor run out of the final corner, albeit with a penalty as well. And that was me up into 12th. I then met the Swiss driver, who I attempted to pass. Went quite defensive into this one, which would surely give them a poor exit. That's exactly what happened. Going up the inside here, they tried to defend it, but it was just too late. I was up the inside, and as long as I didn't overshoot, then I'd be fine. And I didn't overshoot, and I was fine. The car on the right hand side slow, moving up into P10. And then now, we're on lap 8. You can see the Portuguese driver turning this into a rallycross circuit, which was not ideal and cost them any sort of momentum on the exit. And so I moved up into a beautiful P9. With 3 cars up in front, I felt like, well, there was a bit of a gap, but clearly if they started fighting, I could quite quickly move on to the back of them. That's exactly what happened. It turns out in these very slow cars, you really do have to prioritise keeping momentum as much as possible. If you slow down a little bit too much, you lose that speed and it takes forever to get it back. And so when people start fighting like this, as you can see, you can capitalise on it, as you can quite easily gain the momentum on the exit of the corner. And a lot of my overtakes did happen to be on my way out of a corner rather than going in, because it's all about getting people into the wrong position to get a better drive and out-drag them on the exit. In towards the final corner, I felt like I was just going to absolutely send it no matter what, and completely go against the ethos I was just discussing by overtaking on the way out rather than the way in. Then as a result of that, trying to gain a position actually lost me one, and so there, not gaining 7th, in fact I gained 9th position, which was not good. But it was 1 position higher than we started, so it was something. Now this is what happened to one of the guys who crashed into the wall. It was quite an interesting, intriguing crash, where they turned right on a straight, went flying into the wall. And it was the good benefit here of saving the replay, because of course you can therefore watch the faster players and see what's going on with their driving style. And it really is a case of getting the car into the corner, and this one here, really throw it into that corner, keep the momentum up as much as possible on the power as soon as you can get it on, and that will ultimately give you a quicker lap time. In here, maximising the track width, perhaps could have been a bit more over the curb on the apex, but that was a good line and it turned out to be the fastest lap in that race. We moved then on to the second race, and you know, at one point in that previous one I was 15th out of 15. I was the slowest person in the slowest race, in the slowest car. It really did not look good at all. So we're trying to go one step better here and just not be so bad. And this was my qualifying lap. First lap setting a 1:01.3. We're trying to get into the 1 minutes, and we do exactly that, 1 minute point 884. And that put me mercifully in 3rd place, which was a lot better than 10th. And moving away from the line, up behind 2 TX3 drivers, this was a good chance to have a very good result. And I felt like, okay, we could go for the move there in towards the big braking zone at the first corner, the 3rd corner technically. And what I decided to do was just follow these guys. Let's just follow, wait, be patient and wait for the right opportunity to arise. So here maybe I could have slammed up the inside, but it was really difficult to get a good overtaking to that first corner. Again here, quite close, but this moment really ruined my race. Car in front drifted, I go into the back of them, and you can see all of my momentum goes into the car in front, and we watch them disappear into the distance as their pixels get smaller and smaller. And by the end of the race, that was it. It was a P3, it was a solid result, but I decided to go and get some Red Bull sponsorship. So I was on the phone to Red Bull for quite a long time to secure a multi-billion-pound deal. Also put on some 20-inch black rims onto this incredible machine. I mean, just look at that. But with all of that said, let's move on to the 3rd race. And this one was going to be a tough one because as I jumped in, it seemed as though I was in the top split. Qualifying, let's see how this one went. Now, I'm not going to bore you with this, so I'm just going to let you know. I did a 1 minute 0.6, which was my fastest ever qualifying lap. And it put me 9th, albeit very close qualifying, as you can see here from those results. I'm the yellow arrow. But let's jump into the start of the race. 12 laps around Maggiore in the Citroen DS. Away from the line we go actually really was not a good start for me. It seemed like my car rolled backwards initially. Let's see if I can just protect my position here. Starting 9th. Okay, we can definitely move forward from here. Let's see what we can do. And like I said, it's going to be a difficult race. We are in the top split, or at least minimum 2nd split, but I think this might be the top split, given we have the likes of Antonio towards the front. But let's see. It doesn't really matter what split it is. All I've got to do is try to beat the cars in front of me, and the ones behind me as well. You've got to beat all of them, ideally. That's normally how it works. Right, into this right, onto the back straight. You can see already everyone's sort of formed into the train. The long line of cars, the long line of Citroens, and accidentally going to the back of the Frenchman in front, and it was such a silly moment for me, and I kind of had to back off. I didn't want to overtake him after doing that, and as you can see, as a result of such a silly moment, we lose a handful of positions, and yeah, just not ideal at all. We're going to lose another one here to Digit, comes up the inside, and unfortunately I've cost myself and the Frenchman there 3 positions apiece. Not good at all. In fact, I've cost myself 4 positions. Someone serving a penalty in the background there. But what you are noticing, perhaps a couple of positions forward, maybe about 7 or 8 positions forward, it is really intense fighting towards the front. Beautiful switcheroo performed there, and we lose 12th but gain it back immediately with a lot of work here to be done. Let's be honest, but in such a intriguingly slow car, and on my 3rd race I was getting used to it. It definitely is a different style of racing when the cars are a lot slower, but it's not such a bad thing. And actually, you know what, I was actually beginning to somewhat enjoy driving this machine, as we're looking to go up the inside here of Digit, who's going to get slightly run wide, and it might take a couple of corners to get this overtake done. We're not going to get it done here. We may well get it done as we whip it forward down towards the bottom hairpin, as again Digit gets run slightly wide there, and the space opens up. We're going to move up into 11th, and we have quite a lot of cars in very close contention here. It's going to be a very frenetic race here in the midfield, as everyone seeks an advantage over the other. Now into the first corner, lap number 4, as we head through the S's into the big braking zone here. Is the space going to open up on the right? It kind of is, actually. And rather foolishly, the Austrian drives quite wide, leaves the door open, but does actually get a very good run and manages to protect their position up the hill. The car struggling with 103 horsepower to make it up that very small hill, which in something like a GT3 car would seem like absolutely nothing. Now you see I might have adapted my line through that right-hander. You really do have to abuse the track limits around this track, and especially on that corner. And so that would explain perhaps why I was going a lot quicker. The fact that I was cutting the corner to the maximum of what is allowed by this game's standards. Now moving up another position, Spaniard there getting run wide, and well, I'm not going to complain about that one. I'm going to take the position and say thank you very much. Austrian here, it's quite interesting, just drove to the left slightly of the Frenchman, leaves space on the inside, and I went for it. Not quite perfect, and again, just going to the back of the same Frenchman I hit earlier, and a drag race up the hill at 47 miles an hour, not quite able to make it stick. Austrian goes back into position, and we all just resume the positions we were in before all of the contact a couple of corners ago. And here we are in 10th. But I do believe there's definitely scope here to move forward. I feel quite comfortable on my pace. I felt like my consistency was a lot better. It did take 2-3 races to really learn how to drive this car. And one thing I was noticing, into that bottom hairpin that we just went through, you really had to be very aggressive on the steering to kind of get the car to slide through the turn. If you drove this car too slow, oh my goodness, what's going on here? We've got a big moment as the Frenchman tried to turn across, and I think the Austrians still had their nose alongside, and they went into the wall together, and with a slight helping from behind, I'm actually going to be able to go up into 8th. Lots of cars right behind me now, and they're kind of depending on my pace now to try to catch up and reel in P7. The Spaniard now has a 1.9 second advantage. It doesn't look like much, but it takes so long, and it is almost painful watching that gap come down, how slow it happens. And you see here, by lap 8, it came down by about a 10th, but it definitely wasn't going to be enough. At least I was quite safe. I managed to pull away with the Austrian. Myself, the Austrian, we separated ourselves from the group behind. That was good. That was better than having the whole group come along with me. And what I noticed was that I was definitely quicker through this bottom corner on most laps, although on this one I kind of went a bit wide, and unfortunately what it meant was the Austrian kind of had half an opportunity coming up the hill to end lap 8. So side by side, and that just kind of gave me a warning that, look, I need to really get these corners right, otherwise I'm going to come under attack rather than be able to push forward and try to go for P7. So that, you know, this race really hangs in the balance at this point in time, and so we do need to be quite perfect from here on in. Now, this was lap 9, end of lap 9. The gap was 2.3 roughly going into the bottom hairpin. And what I noticed was the Spaniard in front made a very, very big error. And as I was saying earlier, you make one mistake in this car and you lose so much time very quickly. Look at that, one mistake through one corner and he's lost pretty much a second, if not a little bit more, by the time we head into the first corner. And so you really do have to be very, very consistent when driving the slower cars and really just keep that momentum up wherever possible. Now, I felt like this race was getting away from me, but after that mistake, and perhaps another mistake there, the Spaniard is here for the taking. And with 2.5 laps left to go, our new goal is to, well, quite simply move up into 7th place. Let's see if we can do it. Through the right-hander, didn't quite get on the power as early as I'd like there because of the compromised line on the way in. So coming down the back straight, we're just going to try and keep this car as narrow as possible, looking up the inside, and we're going to try to perform the old switcheroo, moving out to the left as late as possible. And this was about to work until we just got a tap from the Austrian behind, just on the apex. And I felt like that switcheroo was almost on there until that contact happened. And so the Spaniard just has a couple of corners here to breathe and regather his thoughts before I come back at him with another assault. Into the big braking zone here, over the curb, clattering over that thing. Trying to get on that power as early as possible. So crucial. And after all of that battling, you can see the cars behind just gathering up once again. If we take a look forward, the driver in P6 with a 1 second penalty. This could actually be incredibly close here because the penalty line is just coming up and we might be able to gain that position. Let's see, as they're going very slow. The Spaniard is going to get by. Am I going to be able to follow him through? I think I am, just about before we brake. I'm going to turn in quite narrow, slightly earlier than before. And you see they're actually hitting the apex quite nicely, and that was actually a very nice corner given that car was sort of half on my inside as I began braking, and therefore I had to quite consider where they were. We've moved up into 7th, and P6 is on. 6th position is a possibility, a distinct possibility. Let's see if we can manage to get this position. Not close enough into the hairpin here. Let's try and keep the momentum up on the exit. We're right on his tail as we head up the hill, hitting highs, dizzying highs of 55 miles an hour over the crest. Absolutely unbelievable velocity being reached here. As we head into the right-hander for the final time, trying to get on the power as early as possible. Am I going to be able to get an overlap? Not quite. I'm going to have to tuck back in. But you see here the Spaniard is very aware of this overtake. And I tried this 2 laps ago. I'm going to try and pin them narrow as long as possible before moving to the left-hand side, and boom. It's all about the overtake on the exit of the corner. The old switcheroo performed to perfection on the final corner of the final lap. The Spaniard loses 2 positions, and I'm back up into P6. Incredible scenes, beautiful stuff. And I really hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Have an amazing day. There is another video on the screen for your viewing pleasure, so please do give it a click. Subscribe if you're new, and I shall see you next time. Goodbye.